morning. You're listening to The Brief Wake Up, your mindful start to the day. I'm Handel, your daily coffee companion, helping you wake up informed, thoughtful, and maybe just a little amused before the day gets old. If you're commuting, corralling kids, or just standing in line for caffeine, you're in the right place. Let's get you caught up. Let's start with what should be our priority, our health. Are cold showers actually good for you? This morning, let's talk about a wellness trend that's everywhere. On TikTok, in locker rooms, on your favorite podcasts, and maybe even in your own bathroom. Cold showers. Some people swear they sharpen your mind, boost your immune system, even reduce inflammation. But what does the science say? When cold water hits your skin, your body goes into what's called a cold shock response. Fast breathing, a quick spike in heart rate and blood pressure, and a surge in stress hormones, especially norepinephrine, that makes you feel wide awake. That's the immediate zing people talk about. And yes, research backs up at least some of this. One of the biggest studies we have, a randomized controlled trial out of the Netherlands with more than 3,000 people, found that those who ended their shower with 30 to 90 seconds of cold water reported 29% fewer days of calling in sick over the next month. Not immune boosting magic, but interesting. There's also a 2025 systematic review looking at over 3,000 participants. It found that cold water exposure can reduce stress levels, especially about 12 hours after the cold exposure. The benefits weren't immediate and they weren't permanent, but they were real. Cold exposure also triggers changes in the brain. Some studies show increased dopamine and norepinephrine, which might explain why a cold shower can feel emotionally stabilizing or mentally refreshing. And athletes? They've been using cold immersion for years. Evidence shows it can reduce muscle soreness and speed recovery when you're training hard, and this is important, the research is not as open and shut as the internet makes it sound. A lot of studies are small. Some are done on extreme winter swimmers, not exactly your average Tuesday morning shower crowd. And the systematic review found no strong immediate improvement in immune markers, like antibodies or white blood cells. So, the whole cold showers will supercharge your immune system claim? Right now, there's no solid proof. A 2024 study did suggest potential improvements in both humoral and cell-mediated immunity, but even that was based on small numbers and measured biochemical markers, not real-world outcomes like fewer colds or infections. So, here's the truth. Cold showers are not a miracle cure, but they're also not just hype. They reliably trigger a powerful physiological response that can make you feel alert, clear, and energized. They may help with stress tolerance. They might even help you miss fewer sick days. And for athletes, they can absolutely help with recovery. But if you're looking for a guaranteed long-term health transformation, the science isn't there yet. If you want to try it, start simple. At the end of your warm shower, turn the dial down for 30 seconds. Gradual exposure is key, especially if you have high blood pressure, heart disease, or circulation issues. Always check with your doctor if you fall into those categories. And remember, it's a tool, not a treatment. Cold water won't replace sleep, exercise, or nutrition, but it can add a jolt of energy, a mental reset, and maybe a little resilience to your morning routine. Your health, your choices, just make them informed. Now what's on for our news? The Epstein files release and Trump's response. Today, one of the biggest political headlines continues to unfold, and it centers around the newly released Epstein files and how President Donald Trump is responding as the ripples widen across Washington. Over the past 48 hours, large portions of the Epstein investigative logs, correspondence, and archival notes were released. A mix of court documents, deposition material, and years-old DOJ records tied to Epstein's network. And what's capturing attention isn't just the names inside, but the political reactions surrounding them. According to reporting, Trump's team moved quickly behind the scenes. Their central message: the former president's interactions with Epstein were limited, distant, and long before his time in office. Public-facing statements highlight that several of the high-profile individuals appearing in the files come from across the political and financial spectrum, including prominent figures in business, academia, philanthropy, and prior administrations. But political analysts note a shift in tone. Early on, the response from Trump's circle was dismissive, framing the document release as old news. Now, as more details get combed through, the posture appears more defensive, focusing on distancing, clarifying timelines, and redirecting attention toward other names emerging in the release. Critics argue this change signals concern over how the story could evolve. Supporters counter that the attention itself is politically motivated and that the broader takeaway should be about systemic failures that allowed Epstein's network to operate for so long. What's clear is this: the release isn't just a historical footnote, it's resurfacing questions about accountability, transparency, and who had proximity to Epstein's world. Questions that land differently in an election season, where trust and credibility are already central themes. As more journalists, legal experts, and investigators sift through the documents, both parties are preparing for additional discoveries, because even small details can reshape narratives quickly. For now, expect this story to stay in the headlines, not only because of the people involved, but because of what it represents. A renewed public look into a case that has haunted American institutions for more than a decade, and a test of how political figures choose to respond as that scrutiny intensifies. For tech and culture, welcome back to our Time Traveler's Paradox series. In episode 4, we discuss what happens when the future predicts you. So far, we've talked about loops with no beginnings, timelines that refuse to be rewritten, and a universe that stays mysteriously quiet. Today, we turn the lens inward, because this paradox isn't really about time travel at all. It's about something more unsettling. What happens when the future can predict your choices better than you can? This is the heart of Newcomb's paradox. And instead of the classic two-box riddle, let's zoom in on the modern version you're already living. Imagine a system, an AI, a model, a predictor that knows you so well, it can forecast your decisions with near perfect accuracy. What you'll buy, who you'll date, which habits you'll break, and which ones you'll go right back to. The paradox asks a simple but uncomfortable question. If something can predict your behavior, are you still choosing? Or are you just acting out a script written from your data? Because here's the twist. The moment a prediction is made about you, you start to move inside it. You get recommended things that match the model's expectations. You see content aligned with who the system thinks you are. You're offered jobs, products, connections, even relationships that reinforce its forecast. At some point, you're no longer choosing freely. You're choosing inside a set of possibilities, curated by a machine that knows you. That's Newcomb's paradox in real life. Not a puzzle, but a mirror. And the paradox becomes this: if your future can be predicted with high accuracy, does that prediction become destiny? Or can you still break it? Some argue prediction isn't control. You can still surprise the system. You can still act against expectation. Others say prediction shapes behavior. People become the thing the algorithm expects, not because they must, but because the world around them makes it easier. And this is where the time travel connection lands. If a future version of you already knows what you're going to choose, does that knowledge lock your timeline? Does it nudge you into the same path again and again? Or can you still step off the track, even if the universe expects you not to? Newcomb's paradox isn't asking whether time travel is real. It's asking whether free will is real, and whether knowing the future becomes the first step towards living it. In our final episode, Part 5, we go right to the core: identity, continuity, and the question that collapses the whole season into one quiet existential punch. If you met another version of yourself, which one is actually you? That's where we end the series, and it gets very real. Now for our lighter roast. Let's continue talking about dating and apps, but off them. The lost art of just meeting someone. So let's imagine a world that feels almost mythical now. Dating off the apps. Real analog. I saw you across the room and we talked like humans. Dating. For this generation, that concept might as well be a bedtime story. People hear it and go, wow, vintage. But it's not extinct. It's just rusty. Because dating off the apps requires this ancient skill we've basically archived. The tiny courage it takes to approach someone without an algorithm doing the warm-up act. No curated profile, no perfectly worded message, no swipe-based confirmation that you're allowed to say hello, just that you. Raw, unfiltered, slightly nervous you. And look, everyone says nobody approaches anymore. But that's because everyone is waiting for everyone else to make the first move. It's a standoff of mutual hesitation. The chemistry is there, the interest is there, but the phones are louder than both. Which leads to a hilarious idea and app that gets a massive group of people together for a party. And then at the door, we take every device away. Fully unplugged socializing. You want a match? You better make eye contact. You want a connection? Better tell a joke. Suddenly we'd rediscover ancient lost arts like conversation, timing, and figuring out whether someone is flirting or just being polite. It would be chaos. It would be beautiful. Because here's the truth. In-person dating still works better than anything coded in JavaScript. You can't swipe for chemistry. You can't algorithm your way into shared humor. And you definitely can't feel someone's presence through 3 curated selfies and a bio that says, I love travel. But meeting someone in the wild comes with uncertainty, and uncertainty terrifies modern daters. There's no preview mode, no typing indicator, no chance to backspace a weird comment. It's vulnerable, and that's exactly why it matters. Once you lean into it, you realize the old school skills still work. Smiles still land, eye contact still melts defenses, banter still builds bridges, humans still respond to humans. So maybe the point isn't to delete the apps, but to remember that technology was supposed to be a shortcut, not a substitute. Use them if you want, but don't let them convince you that love only lives behind a touchscreen. Because somewhere out there, someone is hoping they meet the one person brave enough to look up. And for our commemoration, today, November 17, is one of those rare days where the calendar gives us a full spectrum of what it means to be human, from our beginnings, to our relationships, to our ideas, to our health, to the tools that expand our minds. We start with World Prematurity Day, a reminder that some of the strongest fighters in the world are the ones who arrive early. Tiny hands, tiny lungs, but enormous will. Families who sleep upright in hospital chairs. Nurses and NICU teams who become part of the family. It's a day to honor the quiet courage that happens long before most of us are even aware of the world. And then, In a completely different universe, it's also National Unfriend Day, a day that nudges us to clean up our social circles, both online and maybe even offline. A gentle reminder that not everyone who has access to us deserves access to us, and that healthy boundaries are one of the kindest things we can give ourselves. If World Prematurity Day is about the fragility of new life, Unfriend Day is about the strength to let go of old weight. It's also World Philosophy Day, which feels fitting because philosophy is really just the practice of asking better questions. What matters? Who matters? Why do we think the way we think? And it's hard to set boundaries, or show compassion, or grow as people without asking ourselves those harder questions. Then there's National Take a Hike Day, encouraging us to step outside, breathe deeper, and let the world get quiet for a moment. There's something grounding about putting your feet on a trail, the kind of thinking you can't do hunched over a screen. Sometimes clarity isn't found in talking, it's found in walking. Today also marks the anniversary of one of medicine's greatest achievements, the creation of the MRI, a machine that lets us see the human body without cutting it open. It has saved lives, diagnosed cancers early, mapped brains, and changed surgery forever. From nice use to neurology, that invention touches nearly every life. And finally, the day the first electronic calculator was released. A simple device that seemed like a novelty at the time, but in reality became the seed that grew into the computational world we live in today. It paved the way for smartphones, computers, and artificial intelligence, including the tool you're listening to right now. So November 17th is a reminder. Life begins fragile. Relationships shift. Questions matter. Nature calms us. Technology reveals us. And every advancement we celebrate started with a single idea, a spark, a moment where someone believed the world could be more, and we honor all of that. Today's show reminded us that health isn't about hacks. Politics isn't just headlines. And technology isn't separate from who we are, it shapes us. From cold showers and the Epstein files, to Newcomb's paradox, and the lost art of meeting someone in person, everything we covered came back to one theme. Awareness creates choice. And on this November 17th, with celebrations of life, clarity, courage, and innovation, we're reminded to look up, look inward, and keep choosing with intention. I'm Handel. Be curious, be kind, and top off that cup. Till next time.